successfully building a community is like when I integrate not only the nerds, not only the techie people, not only the financial experts. Like when we integrate people from outside.
Hi guys, welcome to our new episode of Blockchain Beyond Hype. Today we're talking with Martin Breuer from EOS Nation about building the community of blockchain early adopters. So we're here today with Martin. Welcome to Blockchain Zoo. We're excited to have you here to discuss your thoughts on the blockchain and community of early adopters globally and in China. So you have a bit of an artistic and rebellious, or at least activistic background. Is that what brought you to the crypto libertarian community, or what were some other motivations behind your interest in blockchain technology?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Bali has been great so far. For my background, I mean, yes, I started in politics quite early and studied arts afterwards. Then moved to China, and I got in touch to blockchain in China. And there were a couple of reasons. I think the most obvious is like international money transfers. So I was using Bitcoin to transfer money out of China. Another obvious reason is censorship resistance. Another thing was there are a lot of Bitcoin miners, investors in China. And I think it's pretty adopted there in a way. Further down, where it brings me to EOS, there's the liquid democracy movement, which I was interested in earlier, and I think with the proxy voting, with the voting system on EOS, that intrigued me afterwards. Like after Bitcoin, Ethereum, I wanted to get more involved into EOS and more into blockchain because of that. Before it was more of an investment and something that I was interested in. And speaking of art, I was interested into the social sculpture, which is a concept of Joseph Beuys, and it basically is a concept where every person brings value to a community. And he defines art quite widely, and this kind of value system, this kind of who you are and what you bring to society needs to be accounted for in some sort of way. Reminded me of a tokenized economy. So these are the reasons why I got more and more into this, but it was really a gradually thing throughout 10 years.
Okay. So it looks like your core goal at EOS is to build the community. As professionals with such a title have started appearing more often, could you share with us what it means to create a community or an ecosystem? How do you identify that the job is well done?
Well, first of all, there wouldn't be a value without users. So you increase value the more users you have. And building a community means to me integrating people who are outside of the community. And it brings value to me. I learn what kind of perspective they have, what kind of use cases they see once they learned about what decentralization is, for example. What is immutability? To what level we can bring transparency. Another thing is, well, they bring use cases. The other thing what I can learn is anytime I'm explaining blockchain to someone, I know where it actually hurts, where I lose them. So I can slowly lower the threshold for people to actually understand. So successfully building a community is like when I integrate not only the nerds, not only the techie people, not only the financial experts. Like when we integrate people from outside, and through my art background, I'm an example for this. For the longest time, I didn't feel like I can be integrated in the community because I don't have a background in finance or in tech. But then I thought about why not? How can I build a dApp or a platform that caters to people in the art world. And then I was looking for what kind of protocol, what kind of platform I use, and I found EOS.
Okay. So it is a surprising setup. Companies usually choose someone very local to lead the community in a certain country. What did it take to win the contest despite you being a foreigner in China?
Well, first of all, I was surely very lucky. I was at the right place at the right time. And a lot of other block producers, they choose a local representative, mainly because of the language barrier. So I was pretty lucky to have the experience to live in China already for 10 years, and I was before active in culture exchange. So I was already like living kind of a hybrid life, like knowing and understanding both worlds and both parts. And throughout my work, it became clearer and clearer that this is kind of the way that it works better. Because an ambassador would not translate accurately the vision behind something. When you have a text or something, then it would be word by word.
EOS is a block building project. As your motto says, one block at a time. You are running the long run, enabling mass adoption of technology. What is the current state of big wins associated with your team? BitShares, Steemit?
Well, first of all, disclaimer, one block at a time is not our motto anymore.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's just recent development.
Okay.
So that was before, it's true, and it stood for steady improvement. Well, these are achievements of Dan Larimer before he started doing EOS. We as EOS Nation, we are a block producer, and we started getting involved in EOS itself. Dan Larimer is like the CTO of Block One, and he developed EOSIO, the platform where EOS runs on. Basically the software protocol. With regards of BitShares and Steemit, I think BitShares will port on EOS. This is announced for end of this month. It will be soon. It's gonna be very interesting. It's called BIOS. Okay. And the relation there is like the father of Dan Larimer. Stan Larimer actually is the head of BitShares. Okay. So there's a very close relationship. With Steemit, I think Dan built it, and then he saw that there are issues, and then he wanted to build something better to port Steemit, or the idea of having a social network on the blockchain on EOS later.
So blockchain technology is often tagged in media as a libertarian panacea. Blockchain was created partially by libertarian ideas, where the underlying idea was to sideline intermediaries such as central banks and maybe even some government bodies. Are those values cherished by EOS Nation?
I think when you're in blockchain, you cherish these values. It's the foundation. The people that I talk to, they have an entrepreneurial mindset, and the work they put into their products, I think they want to be free. So at the core, you have this throughout the whole blockchain. The values that EOS Nation stand for is transparency, professionalism, accountability, these kind of things. I think they're a little bit more defined than a libertarian mindset. I didn't grow up into this binary distinction between like libertarians or not, but I definitely see the potential of like a free market. Free markets are integrated in EOS in a lot of aspects.
So how are those values met by the Chinese community? By the way, how big is it now?
Well, the Chinese community is pretty huge. I think, or I know, most of the EOS tokens are in China or controlled by Chinese account holders. EOS is ranked #1 by the Chinese government as the most promising platform. All right. When it comes to values, Chinese people are not political. There's no political party, or there's a one-party system. So they don't see things, again, like politically distinguished. For them, it's an investment, and they see the potential in the technology. And they come from mining, investing, trading, and also more recently on EOS, like gambling.
Okay. And what about the Chinese government? Ultimately, let's not forget that social needs and strong community powered by the right technology might eventually cause a partial withdrawal of governments and their ancillary institutions from the role of intermediaries?
Yes. I think the Chinese government, they distinguish again between like what is the currency and what is the technology. I think they're very interested into in blockchain as a technology to improve production, supply chain. The whole blockchain as a service, BaaS, is a very big thing, and in China, and a lot of like companies utilize EOSIO software for this.
Okay.
China is also investing a lot into the next generation of developers. Most of the universities start integrating a blockchain-related curriculum. So I think China is seeing the potential there, and they're moving into the future. How they're going to regulate, or how they're going to deal with maybe their loss of control is another thing, I think. And when it comes to this, they will find a way to deal with that. For now, I think having a voting system is interesting for the Chinese community. However, they're not really active.
Okay.
It might be because they're not having a political background again, or they are more used to leave their tokens on exchanges.
Okay. So looking at EOS core documents like Constitution and toolkits, all endeavors look very exciting, serious, yet futuristic. I am sure the list of various projects EOS Nation is working on is much longer than presented on the website. You have mentioned before the platform which will revolutionize the way employees are managed and rewarded all over the globe. Is it a management system which will eliminate managers and flatten the organizations?
Well, I think what you're talking about is Ardex. Some people call it also a DAO, D-A-O, which is like a decentralized autonomous organization.
Okay.
The system of DAX or DAOs is they optimize the process and automate the process actually, and give people a way to vote on a specific goal. So people can come together and define their goals, manifest them in a smart contract, and then break down the shares of this organization or this company into token. And each token gives you your voting weight. One other block producer is called EOS DAC. Their mission is to be the DAC enabler. So they set up their own company in form of a DAC and give this framework basically to the community, to like not just the EOS community. It's really it goes back to a concept that also comes from Dan Larimer. They just developed the technical aspect of it, and right now they even working on getting the legal background. So right now, because DACs are new, they can't be a legal body yet. So what they're working on is like with lawyers and governments to actually find a way to legalize working in these kind of ways.
Okay.
And when it comes to the working world, well, looking at the bigger picture, we can be potentially part of a lot of companies by having their micro shares and improving these companies by giving our feedback on certain things. Like, for example, when you, let's imagine airplane company. Just imagine the people that buy a ticket then also like get some shares or loyalty program, get points in form of feedback, and the more they use it, the more points they get, the more they give feedback and the more feedback gets used, the better the airline gets, the higher gets the value of these shares. So this is a long-term interesting model how I see the economy can change.
So blockchain triggers philosophical conversations. Social change is a complex process and it isn't always clear who is bad and who is good. So it's better to go to the macro level and ask yourself bigger questions. Are we at the dawn of an economic revolution?
Definitely yes.
Okay.
Calling it a revolution, maybe. I think it's a national process. For me, this started basically with the internet, which enabled communications on a global scale. The internet came without certain levels of security and accountability, and I think that's where blockchain comes in. And within the last 20 years, we grew as first of all, a globalized society, globalized economy, and bringing new features to the internet that we actually can trust and organize, rely in a reliable manner, like financial markets and political decision making. I think will change the world for sure, and will also change philosophies, put them in perspectives, I think. How are we going to reach this? I think it's really including people and seeing where they're coming from, hearing people out, understanding cultural backgrounds. These are the things that are happening right now. And it's a slow process, but I think it's creating value constantly. Because again, similar to when I talk to new users, they bring me something. I understand the whole thing better. The same is when a Chinese investor and a Western developer talk to each other about their visions or where they see things coming, or you called it right or wrong, who's bad and who's good. In the end, I think everybody is thriving for this new era of how we organize society.
So what might the consequences and implications be of this?
Well, macro level, I think the consequences of technology involvement are that we will have less jobs because more and more processes will be optimized. Because it's more efficient. So more people will need to find ways how they make a living and how they generate value for themselves and for the society. I think this is one aspect where we're growing to, and I'm really excited about this. I think the consequences are like synergies on a global scale, how social networks work, how people start cooperating. So yeah, I think the way we live our lives will be different. We will be not really fixed to one location. I think this is one factor. We are not only working in our own community. I think we will live in a larger community and also redefine how we see ourselves as individuals.
All right. So who would use these applications and lay down the legal framework that would govern these blockchain solutions?
Well, at the moment it is governments control the legal frameworks. However, governments, they didn't spend the last 10 years on understanding the vision that's based in the Bitcoin white paper or in what's the potential of decentralization, because from the beginning they were kind of in a contradiction, right? Government is the centralized thing, companies are centralized, and there's this whole different development going parallel. Right now I think there needs to be some sort of cooperation between both streams, both dynamics, and then have a transition into this new idea of what's legal, what's not.
So, if you're able to reveal, what will be the ultimate success for EOS Nation globally, let's say in 10 years?
Well, in 10 years, I think EOS Nation will have successfully brought together all the different global communities. And we will be essential and to inter-blockchain communication. The basis of the scalability of EOSIO is horizontal scaling. It means that there are basically a whole swarm of blockchains all on the same base protocol intercommunicate. The tools for this to happen, EOS Nation is at the core of this development. Regulation is another aspect where we are actively on the table talking to local governments and finding solutions for this. And as community leaders, we do the same thing in education. Like that people are aware of their data. Like that it's important to protect your data. How can you monetize your data? Inclusion is another aspect. We have a lot of ambassadors in Africa, for example, and they are unbanked. And they came to us because they had heard about Steemit. They were Steemit users, and because Steemit was also from Dan Larimer, they were interested in EOS and contacted EOS Nation. And now we help them to create a blockchain hub there where they educate people about the potential of blockchain and how they can really make a living using this technology or using these networks and being able to save, because a bank doesn't give them an account. So that's just brings people into this new economy. We believe in diversity, because diversity is, again, this might be this use case, which is only useful there. Or not useful, but it's needed there. For example, coming back to Africa, there are a lot of power shortages. Some of our ambassadors, they can't work or they're not reachable for like 2 days because there's a power surge or an outage. But Block One did an EOS hackathon there. We had the global hackathon series, and the winner of the African hackathon developed like the Ubuntu Power Ledger, which decentralizes power production and gives people the opportunity to create their own power and basically sell it on a marketplace, which solves a problem that's only there. But once the technology is proven to work, we can use this in the first world. So bringing all these like different communities together and seeing what's needed there, develop something, because there's more urgency. It's more urgent to develop it there. But then communicate this to the rest of the world. First of all, help them to improve this by just technological consulting or even investing. Like I can invest into a solar panel, for example, there, and then I get revenue from this. I mean, these kind of things, there are the global synergies that are important, I think.
Currently, there are a few challenges which are still not solved by blockchain technology. Scalability is one of them. How has EOS Nation addressed this challenge?
Well, EOS Nation is just one of the block producers in the EOS community. EOS itself came into the blockchain overall scene to solve the scalability issue. Being scalable is the core need to actually go to mass adoption. We cannot be crippled by a simple application like CryptoKitties on Ethereum that showed the limitations of blockchain. And since then, EOS is working on solutions, and as I mentioned before, horizontal scaling is for us the way to go, and not just EOS Nation, that's the whole EOS community, more or less.
So this has been very interesting. Thank you for telling us about your experience with building the community of blockchain early adopters globally and in China. We do like to ask all of our guests, how do you envision blockchain changing the world?
I think through inclusion of the whole global society, this world becomes a fairer place. That's the first thing, and coming from this, we will have a more diverse way of thinking about what the world is and where it should go.
So how do you think the market for blockchain-based solutions will evolve?
Well, we talked about regulations. There will be some sort of regulations coming. With the regulations in place, there will be institutions. Once institutions moving into the market, there will be more stability. So I think the blockchain market overall will be more mature and less volatile.
Okay. All right. Thank you again for coming to speak with us at Blockchain Zoo about EOS Nation, and we wish you luck on all your current and future projects.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for watching, guys. We at Blockchain Zoo are excited to bring you our new guest on our next episode.